Welcome to Media Melanie TV. Today I'm back to talk about Maxton Hall, Season 2, Episode 5. You guys, this is the penultimate episode of this season. That's right, there are only 6 in total, similar to Season 1. And really, my biggest criticism of the entire season so far is the fact that they dropped all 3 of the first episodes in the premiere, so it's such a limited window of viewing time for week-to-week watching. But that said, they've definitely kept the pacing up. The drama is very prevalent. And in this episode called Deceptive Lightness, I've got to say, I was pretty surprised right off the bat. I didn't expect Ruby and James to actually face Mortimer head on. I expected that Lydia would help them deceive him and get Ruby out of that house before there was any face-to-face encounter. But instead, they decided, you know what? Eventually, Mortimer's going to find out about us, or we're going to have to spend our whole lives defending ourselves against him. So they decided to actually sit down and talk to him. And I've just got to say as well, the thunder of it all. We get it. It's a storm. There is rain. There is thunder. There's some lightning. But when Ruby reaches her hand out and that thunder claps just as she and Mortimer are going to shake hands, I'm like, okay, this use of thunder is just pretty unhinged. But at the same time, it really set the tone for the stormy nature of this episode in total, both literally and figuratively. There's actually a point in this episode where Ruby says something like, sometimes it's fear that we should actually fear the most. And then those who actually face it know if it's justified or not, but those who run away with it will carry that shadow with them. So I think a lot of them deciding just to own that they are together is a statement that they are not afraid of the fear. They want to step out into the sunshine, let the world know that they're together, no matter what that might mean for Mortimer. But unfortunately, during the conversation that they all had over tea, Mortimer learns a lot about Ruby, why she wants to go to Oxford, the fact that she's just procured this special Alice Campbell grant, the fact that her parents own a bakery. So he's already used some of this information against her. He called Alice Campbell and obviously got her grant withdrawn, which was devastating to watch, just given how hard that Ruby has truly worked to get where she is and to earn this opportunity. Now, Lydia, when she made the cute comment about, oh, they make the best cinnamon knots or whatever, is the bakery going to come into play? It's funny because earlier in the season, I'm thinking, okay, maybe at the end of this all, I don't know, James will buy the bakery back so Ruby's parents can own it again. But obviously that would be too soon to happen here in season 2 because without rain, there's no flowers. And I think that quote also speaks volumes to what's going on because it seems like there's going to be a lot more rain in the forecast for James and Ruby before we get any semblance of a happy ending or them being endgame. And again, I haven't read the book, so I'm not sure if they end up together or not. I would imagine so. But if it is framed more as a Romeo and Juliet, I mean, could there be a tragic ending? Don't spoil it for me in the comments. And I think there's still room for them to take some creative liberties and maybe make it a little bit different from the book in terms of how it does end. But we're not going to know that until next season. Of course, season 3 is already in production. Okay, before I get more into my review of Maxton Hall, Season 2, Episode 5, please go ahead, like this video, and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I'm on a journey to become a full-time TV content creator. As you can see, I love talking about TV. I'm very passionate about it. I'm also covering It Welcome to Derry over on HBO for all of the horror fans out there, and let me tell you, it is pretty horrific. Coming up next month, I will be covering Fallout on Prime Video, so you've already got the streaming service. Check that out, especially if you like Yellow Jackets because it stars Ella Purnell from that show. And also, check me out on Instagram. Follow me at Media Melanie. I'm doing a fun thing on Fridays called Weekend Watch, where I just have a casual chat. I talk about the shows I'm watching, what's coming up, give some recommendations. It's been a lot of fun. But for now, back into Maxton Hall. All right, so as I just mentioned, Ruby lost the whole Alice Campbell situation, and James ended up making a phone call to her. Now, is he going to be able to convince her to give it back, or is it going to be a fool's errand? Speaking of errands, the actual physical errand of Ruby running after that bike courier, my heart was racing. I love the fact that both Lexington and Sutton were both very supportive of this. Ruby let them know that she ended up losing that opportunity with Alice Campbell. So the way she chased that bike courier, and when she slowed down, I'm thinking, oh no, she's gonna miss this courier by just a matter of feet. I was so happy that she whistled, the courier stopped, and she was able to hand in her application. So there's at least a little glimmer of hope that Ruby will still be able to go to Oxford, because also hearing Mortimer talking about, oh, well, how are your parents going to support you at Oxford? And, Lydia mentions the bakery and her dad being a cook. I just have this feeling that that is going to come back into play because Mortimer is just literally the worst. Now, we saw him having that breakdown, and something I appreciated about that and just the season as a whole is the messaging that there is nothing wrong with owning your feelings, feeling your feelings, being an authentic person who has feelings. But the way everybody has criticized James for his speech, which I thought was fantastic. Any person, man or woman, who takes accountability, who seeks out help, not only for the people around them, but also for themselves, there is something very special about that. And the authenticity. I love that James was like, there's nothing wrong with showing your feelings. And Mortimer, of course, just buried them right back down again. And then not only that, he basically doubled down. Lydia went through all the trouble of putting together this presentation for the shareholders and, for the big meeting, and obviously targeting a younger audience. This was something that we learned Cordelia had been working towards, taking away the rusty foundations of this very male-dominated company and reaching a younger demographic. So the fact that Mortimer took this Miss Stevens presentation with the sugar daddy campaign, gross. And the fact that all of these men in the room are so supportive of it is just so disappointing. But that speaks to how deeply embedded these male-dominated patriarchal institutions truly are in our society and how difficult it is to actually break those walls down. So my biggest hope, we still haven't had the will reading yet. I need this will to put James and Lydia in some kind of position of power and take Mortimer down like 5 steps. I want James and Lydia to be Mortimer's boss for once. I want them to fire his butt because you know what? This man is not doing any favors for everybody. He is a yes man. He will say whatever he needs to say to keep the profits up and the shareholders happy. The fact that Ellington is in this meeting and is calling James out, the fact that Elaine is the worst of all, from now on I am referring to them as the evil Ellingtons, minus Alistair, of course, because he is just the cutest. When he showed up at the Midsummer Night's Festival, whatever, I loved his costume. I love his attitude. I love everything about him. And I just still cannot believe that he is even from that family in the first place. But this rift between the Ellingtons and the Beauforts is most definitely widening, and Mortimer obviously blames a lot of that on James. Another thing I've just been waiting for a reveal of is Lydia's pregnancy. Now, a lot of time has not passed between season 1 and season 2. It's basically a continuation, and Lydia had just found out she's pregnant. So yes, it is still early on, but then all of a sudden in this episode, we see her looking in the mirror and holding a little bit of a bump. But a couple episodes ago, she was wearing a shirt, had a little scarf thing over it covering her belly. And I took note of that. I'm thinking, oh, is she just wearing that to cover her belly? But she still looked so thin that it seems like this bump sort of came out of nowhere. But I shouldn't complain because I can't have it both ways. I can't say, oh, Lydia hasn't revealed her pregnancy yet, but it's been too soon. And then at the same time saying, oh, it's too soon for her to be showing. I need to pick a lane and stay in it. But either way, Lydia and Graham getting photographed by Cyril and then Cyril sending the photograph to Elaine, this is not going to bode well. Is Elaine going to blackmail the Beauforts in some way once Mortimer sees the photo of Lydia and Graham together? Now, I was also surprised that Graham actually wasn't super shocked and wasn't upset whatsoever about the pregnancy and the twins. In fact, it seems like the yearning between these two, despite the fact that it looks like there's a little bit of physical touch between him and the other professor, Graham seems to be all in. I mean, they truly love each other. So for each sibling to be in a relationship that is forbidden, yes, it is very much giving Romeo and Juliet vibes for both of the Beauforts here. But what is the fallout going to be for Lydia? For a while, I was also kind of thinking to myself with this thing between her and Cyril. Now, Cyril obviously figured out that Lydia is not that into him, but he still was sort of pursuing her despite the fact that he and Lynn had a little something, which apparently lasted last year was friends with benefits, and now they've reconnected again. So Lynn obviously isn't happy seeing Cyril with Lydia. Cyril isn't happy seeing Lydia with Graham. And it seems like Cyril being so upset about this could potentially be a pretty big driving force in what is going to actually happen between Graham and Lydia. Graham was just installed as this deputy headmaster at the recommendation of Lexington. So Lexington now is going to have to put a foot in his mouth if this, obviously he's going to find out the photo was texted to him. So what is his next step? He can't be supportive of Graham being with a student, obviously, even if they started out before Sutton was actually a professor at the school. So what is Lexington's next step going to be? Obviously, Mortimer is a very important figure in this community at the school. So I am not sure exactly how Lexington is going to deal with this, but I would like to know from you guys. What do you think is next for Lydia, for Graham? What is Lexington actually going to do? Because I don't think he can afford to get on Mortimer's bad side, so this one is going to be a little bit dicey. Another Mortimer topic, and I feel like I'm talking about Mortimer all the time because he is such a villain in this. When he was looking on James' old phone from the car accident, looking through the pictures and whatnot, he's sitting there in front of a fire, like literally stroking his chin like a cartoon villain. They do such a great job framing him as this evil dad who really doesn't seem to care very much about either one of his kids. In fact, he only seems to care about himself. And I even wonder when he had that breakdown over Cordelia, did he really care about Cordelia as a person and in their relationship, or did he just care about the power and everything that came along with the Beaufort name? Another major turning point in this episode is the fact that despite Mortimer is trying to ruin everything between Ruby and James, the new James, as he touts himself, says, "I believe in us," and he is not walking away from Ruby this time. He shows this by making that call to Alice, whether or not that turns out okay or not. I'm thinking probably not. Hopefully, though, Ruby will end up getting the scholarship since she caught the courier, so at least there's a backup plan in play. But we've seen this core shift with James throughout the season. I keep going back to that speech. I still can't get over how meaningful it was. And for all of us to watch the same thing, and yes, it's a fictional TV show, but for everybody else who watched that speech and took away from it that it was a poor showing in public, what is wrong with those people? Can we not celebrate emotions in today's day and age? I've got to tell you, I think the idea of privilege and money and power and all of that is obviously appealing for very obvious reasons. But at the same time, like James said to Lydia, it's amazing how you can be so pretty and act so hideously. That statement took me down. I love that he said that to Elaine. She is the worst. Her dad is the worst, the evil Ellingtons. And Elaine saying that Cordelia would be ashamed of James just disgusts me. Another statement James made about upholding traditional notions of these old men. I love that he is fighting against the patriarchy here, and I don't think it's just for Ruby. Even just in looking at his relationship with his sister, James is of a new generation. He took more from Cordelia than he ever did from Mortimer, and that shows clearly through his character despite his dad's wishes. He is so incredibly supportive of Lydia as a sister as well. That is the type of sibling energy that anybody who has brothers or sisters, I think, should be striving for. Now, there were also some pretty solid needle drops in this episode. Bishop Briggs' Be Your Love was playing when Ruby and James were initially together at the beginning of this episode. I loved it. It felt like these two magnets just being pulled together, and the fact that they got interrupted. We got some pretty steamy scenes this season. I wouldn't have minded seeing a little bit more. But of course, the foil Mortimer just had to come home because of this perfectly timed storm, obviously designed to make sure that Ruby and James weren't going to have this time together. Now, the one needle drop that actually really got me was Billie Eilish Blue. That was played during a scene with Percy at night. And Percy has been having all the feelings about the loss of Cordelia. And the song itself is about lost connections, feeling unseen. So I'm just wondering, are they planting more of these Percy seeds for a big reveal come season 3? Or maybe even in the cliffhanger in next week's episode? Percy has had a little bit of an uptick in presence here throughout the last part of the season. So are they doing this to establish the fact that there is going to be some big reveal? Could it be at Cordelia's will? Could Cordelia reveal in her will that Mortimer isn't even the biological father? And that is going to take him out of power and also put him over the edge. Or what if Mortimer did find out that that was coming in the will and did something to manufacture that, or somehow did cause Cordelia's stroke? Or maybe Cordelia ended up taking herself out because she couldn't live with the shame that would be coming with an announcement like that. Now, this could be a completely unhinged theory. Again, I know it's not something that's canon in the books, but I am not giving up on it. So I want you to drop in the comments, do you think it's possible, or do you think that I am grasping at straws here? There was also the song Stargazing by Miles Smith at the Midsummer Festival event. I thought that was really cute. It felt very magical. I've got to say, Ruby is an exceptional event planner. She's going to school for politics and economics or whatever, but I'm also kind of like, is this a missed opportunity? Should she be a formal event planner? She's very good at it. She's shown she can raise money. She can work through some major problems. Overall, I just liked the lightness and the levity that this Midsummer Night's event brought, because I have a feeling this is the last time we may see some of these people celebrating before the end of the season, because it's pretty up in the air right now. What is going to happen with Sutton, with Lydia? What is Elaine going to do with this photograph? And then we had Mortimer looking at the photographs on James' old phone. So is there going to be some correlation or something that maybe brings Elaine and Mortimer together where they conspire over the photographs? Obviously, Elaine has some kind of intention in mind, and we all know it's nefarious because she's literally garbage. So that could be incoming as well. And I've got to give it again to Damian and Harriet. Not only is their chemistry off the charts, the yearning, the way that you really can feel this electric sort of touch anytime they come together or they have physical contact, especially when their hands are touching. It's just like they can't even be next to each other without touching. And I just love this for them. They feel like such an authentic television couple. But when James got the text from Ruby about losing the Alice Campbell scholarship, the quiver in his jaw, are you even kidding me? This man can truly do it all, you guys. And I also think he's taking a page out of Ruby's book, because when he was in with that meeting with Mortimer, and he apologized, he didn't actually apologize and say sorry for his actions. He said, I'm sorry if you're under the impression that this had a negative impact. It shows his inner resilience, and it shows that he is not afraid to be who he is. And I personally think that is the type of leadership that Beaufort needs to break the boundaries and break these notions that are established, like James was talking about, and really reach out to a younger demographic instead of catering to all of the older existing customers. Because you know what? There's a whole nother generation coming up, and it seems to me like a huge missed opportunity not focusing on that. And I think Lydia is really onto something. So I am truly hoping that she ends up in a position of leadership where she can actually implement this plan instead of this ridiculous sugar daddy over 40 situation. Altogether, though, this episode was pretty action-packed. I think we got a lot of lovey-dovey in that big sequence in the last episode, which I'm definitely not complaining about. And obviously, there has to be barriers between James and Ruby. Unfortunately for Ruby, though, everything is coming crashing down around her. But her attitude and statement specifically to Percy, no rain, no flowers, encompasses who she is at the core. And she's not afraid to fight to overcome. Her whole life has been working hard towards her dreams. And there would be nothing more devastating than to see Ruby not be able to go to Oxford, to see her parents not be able to eventually get the bakery back. And what's interesting in all of this is the conversation that Ruby's mom has with her when she comes home one of the nights. She ends up bringing her in a yummy drink, which looks like, I don't know, either hot chocolate or coffee. I'm thinking hopefully, it's not going to keep Ruby up at night. I don't know about drinking hot chocolate like right before bed, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. But she said basically, you need to trust your gut. And unfortunately, even though Ruby is trusting her gut, that is still leading to negative ramifications. And I think Ruby's mom sees where this is going, and could more bad come of this relationship and them digging their feet into the ground and Ruby and James fighting to be together? Is this fight going to cause more upheaval in the life of the Bells, who've already struggled quite a bit? And now if Ruby can't get the scholarship, What is she going to do? Is she going to have to work in the bakery? Like, what is going to be next for her? And are all of her dreams going to come crashing down? We've still got a whole nother season. So altogether, left in Maxton Hall, you guys, we've got a total of 7 episodes, assuming season 3 is going to be 6 episodes like season 1 and 2. Now, it's possible maybe they'll have more content. They need a little bit more time to wrap things up. I would not complain if we get 8 episodes next season. But either way, it's in production, we know it's coming, and I'm still going to be here talking about Maxton Hall. Well, we have it on our screens during season 2. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with a finale preview, very likely another theory and discussion video, so stick with me for more TV talk. Media Melanie, clicking off.